Yay, we're live. Hello, everybody. We are live. One day at a time, right?
Yeah.
Welcome to the Onward Podcast. Welcome to the Onward Podcast. I'm your host, Emily Harmon, and I come live every Wednesday night. Sometimes I come live other times, but my regular time is Wednesday night, 7:30 Eastern. And tonight I've got Dorothy O'Dell. We're here to talk about overcoming adversity. She's overcome many things in her life. And I'm just excited to bring Dorothy on. So let's see, here we go. Dorothy, welcome.
Hey, Emily, thank you so much for having.
Oh, somehow you froze. Oh, you're still there. Okay, good. Yeah, we met several months ago because we have some of the same interests. The Onward Podcast is all about facing adversity, moving forward, and discovering yourselves along the way. And you've written a book about overcoming. Here's your book, The Overcomer: Facing Challenges with Faith and Courage. And
here it is, a copy of it.
There you go.
Woohoo! You can find it on Amazon.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. And since you wrote that book, you've had some other challenges come up, right?
Yes.
So,
I would have to say my life has been a pressure cooker since June.
Hi,
honestly. Hey, Tim.
Tim supports you, though.
Oh, yes.
That Dorothy and Graham O'Dell. Yeah. Oh,
He's one of my biggest supporters. Yes, I will say that. Mm-hmm.
So your life has been challenging. I mean, a lot of people's lives have been challenging, and I'm hoping that tonight you can give some tips. One of the things that you say is you don't want people to feel alone, and that's another reason why I started my podcast. Hi, Carl Sean. Yeah.
Hey, Carl.
So
yes, that's another big supporter.
Inspirational people. We appreciate you supporting us.
Yes, thank you so much. And that's true, Emily. The whole point of me opening my mouth was because I knew what it was like to be basically at the lowest point of your life and be 100% completely alone, I felt that way. When I was growing up, because my parents were seemed like ill all the time, I basically kept to myself. I was, an overweight girl in even before high school. And so, I was bullied for my weight, and I was, of course, had low self-esteem because of that. And, I kept to myself pretty much. And when I did find friends, it was like, they weren't very supportive. I mean, they were there, but if somebody said anything to me, it's not like they would stand up for me. So, so I spent years and years and years pretty much by myself, and with my parents being ill and things like that. And it was just, it felt so alone. And then there was moments that I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why am I here? And, addiction had run in my family. This part has never come up till tonight.
That's what lives do to you.
This is what lives do. A family member had been addicted to prescription medication and alcohol. And so with that addictive personalities in our family, I knew that that's not something that I wanted to turn to. And lo and behold, I can't believe that came out tonight. But anyways.
Well, here, Tim may motivate you. He said he's so proud of you for sharing your personal story. He knows it's not easy. And Tim's been sharing his personal story too. And in a few weeks, I'm going to share some things that I've never shared before. But you know what? It's freeing to share it, right?
Absolutely.
It's like letting it go, and it doesn't have you anymore. And you're not that story.
Right. And no one can hold it against you because you've already just told the world all about it. So you can't hold it against me, and when you're in that low place, you allow people to treat you a certain way. And that's how I got into my abusive relationship. Like, it was mentally and verbally. I never knew from one day to the next if I was coming in to Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde. And I talk about it in the book. So get the book on Amazon.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's one thing after another, and then you feel trapped, and they make you feel like it's your fault that if you wouldn't have said that, or if you wouldn't have done that, then, they wouldn't have reacted that way. And then, you feel in that trap where, okay, maybe it's not as bad as it seems, and maybe it is me, and maybe it isn't him, maybe it is me. And so you go in that vicious circle. And I was in that hamster wheel for 4 years before God finally said, enough, girl, like, you've had enough. And I was there in that relationship. There was moments that I thought, okay, if this is all there is to being in a relationship, I'm just going to end it. And I didn't have a plan to end my life, but I just knew that if this was it for the rest of my life, that I didn't want to be on this earth anymore. And, with having an uncle that took his life Christmas Day 23 years ago, mental illness runs in my family on top of, that's on one end of that's on one side of the family, and the addictions was on the other. So, you put the two together on top of the medical history,
on top of low self-esteem,
it's like a ticking time bomb. And that's why, my drug of choice was food for the longest time, and I've been definitely, I had struggles with that. And now I'm coming back up out of that again. And it's funny because I actually have an accountability partner with that. And since we become accountable to each other, I've lost 5 pounds. So, and the stigma with that, because with being overweight and the self-image of that, people, society's thing is, okay, well, if you're not a size 2, then you really have nothing to give. And that's what held me back in success for a long time. Like, I would be the girl in the corner that didn't want any attention to her. And here I am on your show, sharing my story, potentially to the world, because who knows who's going to see this.
Right. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Why did it take God 4 years to speak up? And, it's coming from someone who it took 7. So why did it take God 4 years?
Okay. So to be quite honest, I didn't find God. I didn't become a Christian until just about the end of those 4 years. So to be quite honest, like, my family background is an Anglican background, but we never went to church. I mean, we went to the pancake dinners, and I helped out at the pancake dinners because my aunt was, I don't know what you want to call them. I don't think she was like an usher, but she did things for the church anyway. She wasn't exactly the secretary, but I forget her title. So we would help her out. And that's basically when we went to church. And when what do they call them with that denomination, pastor or priest in that denomination, the pastor had come to the house and asked each family to donate $1,000 to put the new roof on. And if you couldn't do it, then you were made to, to feel guilty. And since that time, my dad had never stepped foot back into the church again. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, that's when I was young. So fast forward, I was in my 30s when I met this gentleman. And when I was in this relationship, I actually came across a financial services business that I was in. And it's funny because the business service I was in, if anybody knows Canada, the base shop I was out of was in Oshawa, and I lived in Chatham. So that's, we'll say, a 4-hour drive. Mm-hmm. So technically I should have been out of 4 hours away, but they put me in this office. Well, this woman is a Christian. She had, went to church every Sunday. And she said to me, hey, how would you like to go to church with me? Lo and behold, it was the same church that my mom's friend took me to before. And when I went to this church the first time, it kind of freaked me out because they're like, hallelujah, praise the Lord, and hands wagging and everything like that. And I was a teenager at that time, so it kind of like freaked me out. And here I am in my 30s coming back to this church. And there was something about that day where it was like, I was listening to the message, and the message, I forget exactly what the message was, because that's like 15 years ago and a lifetime away for me. But the message, it held me spellbound. So she was the first person to give me my first Bible, other than the Bibles I got when I was first born and baptized through the Anglican Church. So she gave me a Bible, and I started reading that Bible. And the guy that I was with said, you're freaking me out. He goes, you're reading a Bible, you're going to church all the time. He goes, what is with you? And I said, what's the problem? Like your dad's an usher in the Catholic Church. He goes to church all the time. What's the problem? Just because you don't doesn't mean anything. So it's like from that moment on, I could see literally the steps. I could, yes. And, he always had this thing that he was a gamer. And to be quite honest, when I met my husband, I was like, if you're a gamer, there's like, because I met my husband online, and I'm like, if you want anything to do with games, this isn't going to work. Because, I mean, this guy I would be at work 2 jobs, and he would be at home on his butt playing video games all day. So it left a bad taste in my mouth. Let's just put it that way. And so we were at Walmart, and he was hounding me for this Guitar Hero. And we were with friends, and he had pushed my button one too many times. And it was one of the times where I finally had enough gumption to say no. And in front of his friends, I said, and if you ever ask me again, I said, I just won't ever go shopping with you again, and especially with your friends. Wow. And it was like, I could visualize this. Like I had the balls to do it.
That had never come out of your mouth before. He was like, and he was scared because you were reading the Bible, because you're going to get smart about how he shouldn't be treating you this way.
Exactly. And it's literally, and I tell the story in the book where I visualized, it was like a veil in front of me, and I visualized the veil going from the left to the right. And from that moment on, I knew I had to get out of that. I was planning on doing it after Christmas, but November 3rd, I remember it's my Independence Day. Yeah. November 3rd, I come home after cooking him dinner, and he's like, well, I want you gone. And he moved me out of our apartment into his parents' rental home. And I'm like, I knew something was up. What I didn't know is he had been seeing his best friend's sister on the side.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay. Meanwhile, I'm the one that's been putting up with all this shit, but whatever. So, but even though you're relieved because it's finally coming. Like he had a son, so I was going to wait till after Christmas. Because I didn't want the Christmas spoiled for a son. So I remember like it's yesterday, but yeah, I was bawling, and I called my parents, and I was hysterical, and part of me was relieved, but part of me was like, how am I going to get, like, all the utilities were in my name, everything, like, how am I going to get out of here without owing everything? And I just said to him, I spoke up, I said, I'm calling into work tomorrow. I'm going down to the utility commission. You give me a void check, or I'm shutting everything off, and you're going to have to pay restart fees. I couldn't believe it. I had been trying to find a way out for 6 months. And I visualized it, just packing my stuff and leaving. And here he handed over a void check, and it was done. It took me a week. It took me a week to get my stuff out. I was working for a trucking company at the time, and he was nice enough to get a 5-ton truck come, and we took all my stuff out of there, and I was done. It's
amazing the tricks that our minds can play on us, right? Because the only answer you could see is that he's going to react this certain way, and you're going to be in a lot of debt. But there's so many other possibilities, but that's what you focused on. And I get it. I was scared too of leaving, but it worked out better than I thought. So yeah.
See that, women? It works out better than you think. So if you are in a nasty ass relationship, get out. There's always ways.
Yeah. It's not worth it. And there's this cycle, which I'm sure you know. Everything seems to be going well, and then there's some tension. And then I didn't know this at first, but it's kind of like when somebody hits you, but then subconsciously you're recognizing there's tension, and you know something's going to happen. So you maybe do something or to kind of get it to happen so that you can get back to the calmness a little bit. And I know I drove my parents crazy, because I'd call them and be like, complain. And then they'd talk with me a little while later. I'm like, oh, it's fine. We worked it all out. Yeah. So, and you think, well, maybe he's changed, or maybe it was me.
Yeah. If it's repetitive, ladies, it's not you. Like everybody can have a bad day. And I'm not saying I own my stuff. And I'm not saying that I was the perfect angel in that relationship or any relationship that I've been in. But I'm telling you, when you see the signs, the flags are coming up, you ignore the flags, and then he makes you feel that it's your fault. And this is like a repetitive thing happening more than once, twice, 3 times. Get out. It's not you.
I know.
Listen to your gut. Your intuition is always 100% spot on, whether you want to believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're so right. You're so right. So, what other things have you overcome? I know the eating thing, and it's interesting because, you know, you were heavy, right? You were overweight. My daughter is really skinny, and you can be really skinny and people think, oh, if only I was like her. Her self-esteem is like, she works at Starbucks and people would come up to her and say, you need to eat a burger. How do they know what she eats or doesn't eat? That is so friggin' rude. And it impacts. So you can be really skinny and have a low self-esteem too. You can be like me and have, you know, a low self-esteem. I mean, but so everybody's got something that's on their mind like that. You think that skinny people are like just so happy, but
Well, and it's funny you said that because I used to work with this girl named Laura at Pizza Hut back when I was putting myself through college. And this woman was no bigger around than a toothpick.
Mhm.
And I was like 280 pounds at the time. So I was just like, wow. And, you know, I was like, oh man, I wish I could be like her. And she's wishing she could be like me because she's
Yep.
like, I'm flat chested. I
Yep.
would really like some boobs. And I'm like, I'll tell you what, I'll suck all the fat on my thighs and we'll put them in your boobs. How's that? and ladies, we're never happy, and society has this constant cycle of making us not happy. And it's funny because, I don't know if I should tell this, but I'm in the process of co-authoring another book about body image and self-image. And that's all I'll say about it because I'm not sure if I was even supposed to say that. But anyways, and it's funny what's come up in that is, you know, how we portray how we should be and how society portrays us to be. But I am, you know, I'm still overweight, but I am the healthiest I've ever been. I just had blood work to confirm that. And everything is normal. My sugar is normal. My cholesterol is perfect. Everything is perfect. Yeah, I'm low on B12, but I mean, anybody can be low on B12. However, that being said, if, you know, when people look at you when you're overweight or obese or whatever, they're like, oh, you're unhealthy. You know, why don't you go on a diet? Why don't you go eat lettuce and stuff like that? But the thing of it is, I have run a half marathon. I may have walked most of it, but I still did it. I finished it. You know, I rode my bike for 25 kilometers, you know, being at some at my heaviest weight. So when people say, oh, you're lazy because you're fat, that's bullshit. Because I've done more with my body at the sizes that I've been than most people have done when they were the size 2.
Mm-hmm. And you could be skinny like me and have high cholesterol. You can't look at somebody and tell if they're healthy. You could be skinny fat. You could be just not have any muscle on you, which is so, you know, so how did this Dorothy come about? Because the Dorothy you described at the beginning of the show was somebody who's like, you know, ready to end it. What happened? How did you how are you having this attitude?
To tell you the truth, I've always had a little bit of an attitude because I've been bullied and because I've, you know, let people walk all over me. Then I developed this other attitude. Well, basically the screw you. I'll turn it down a little bit since I'm on your show and I want to be respectful. So, you know, because I've had that, now I've toned that down too. I'm somewhere in the middle where I'm confident enough to say, if you're bothering me, I'm confident enough to speak up for myself. And, you know, I've done a lot in the period when I left that guy to when I met my husband. That was, I think, like a 10-year period, if not longer, where I took 10 years to just really focus on me, focus on my mental health, focus on, you know, looking back at where the root of all this craziness started, you know, and healing that. So I did a lot of inner healing work with that. So that's why you see the me today. And it's funny because with sharing all the medical histories with my parents, like my parents have diabetes, which is nothing abnormal, I guess, in this day and age, but heart disease. Like my mom's already had a double bypass when she was in her 50s and stuff like that. And I go through it in the book where, I talk about that and how lonely that was. And I forget what I was going to say with that.
You were going to say, oh, sorry if Pearl distracted you.
He's like, no, that's okay.
He's like, get me up there.
Yes, the dog is really feeling neglected today, folks. You got to say hi to Pearl.
She is. She's just like demanding my attention tonight.
Oh, how I came about how I was.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically,
you did the inner work.
I did the inner work. And then I decided, I just randomly spoke to a friend of mine and I said, I should write a book about my life story because, there's just been so much that's gone on. And since I wrote the book, I could write another book about what's gone on since I wrote the book. And I finished the book last July. So since last July till now, I've gone through another I could write another book about it. And so therefore I thought, I felt alone back then. And my parents until I actually wrote the book, my parents had no idea that mentally I was going through that because this sounds crazy. I wanted to shield my parents from the pain that could potentially give them, knowing that they had a daughter that at times didn't feel worthy enough to even be on planet Earth.
That doesn't sound crazy. No, it doesn't sound crazy because you don't want them to feel like they did something wrong.
Right.
Or they didn't know, why didn't I notice, or, to blame themselves or whatever. No, right. I don't think that sounds crazy.
But that's always been me. I've protected everybody that I've loved. And that's what I do. I protect, even if it's for me, like I'll put on a brave face just so that they don't get hurt.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. And so my friend says, yes, you should write this book. And I'm like, so for 6 years I sat on it. And then God said, girl, it's time to write the book. And I'm like, I don't have any time because the job I have, I got to drive an hour to work. I got to drive an hour back. And then, you got to make dinner for your husband and your stepson. And you got to do this and you got to do that. And then the pandemic hit. So God says, you've got no excuse now. You're working from home. You have 2 extra hours a day. So
what's your excuse now?
Exactly. So then my excuse was, well, I didn't know how to write a book.
Uh-huh.
So his thing was sit your ass in the chair and just start writing. And I took this, a friend of mine had wrote a couple books and she did it herself. She was self-published, put it on Amazon and stuff like that. So for $99, I went and took this course that she did because she wrote like 15 books. So I thought if she could write 15, I could write one.
Yeah.
And so I got a bunch of tips off her and I sat my ass in the chair and I wrote the book.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was it as hard as you thought to write it, or did it just come flowing out, or some days different than others, or what?
When I actually allowed myself to get out of my head, okay, so my thing was I would pray about it and ask God what I should write about. And then when I did that, it flowed. When on the days that I didn't do that, and I'm just like staring at the screen, obviously,
Yeah.
So heads up. Pray before you write, and then it will flow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess for people who, maybe don't pray, I think also like tune into your intuition too.
Yes.
Is another way of saying it, right? Yeah. Like just quiet your mind and tune into your intuition. Yeah. So there's different ways of saying the same thing, I think.
Exactly.
But, so you said in what you sent me, bullying, low self-esteem, abusive relationship, and family trauma. I think you've covered all of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, part of the trauma was, obviously seeing your parents sick.
Yeah.
And the other part of the trauma was dealing with my uncle's suicide. And with my uncle's suicide, it's like he did it on Christmas Day, but we didn't find the body until March. So that was even hard. And my dad's birthday's in March. So I don't remember the exact day we found him. or the dive team found him. Let's put it that way. He had taken a handful of medication, walked out to the marsh, decided to lay down in the marsh, and everything about it is weird because he hated cold. And why? And so to be out in the freezing cold, especially the freezing cold water, we have no idea. We don't know what went through his mind before he decided to do that, other than the fact that he had enough and didn't want to be here. He had a lot of mental health issues, and some went detected, some didn't. He had attempted to take his life a year or two prior to that. I forget exactly the timeline, but my dad found him in time, and we got him rushed to the hospital and pumped charcoal down him and things like that. And he had stayed with us for a little bit after that, just trying to get back onto his feet. And all I can say is love does stupid things, crazy things to you. It's not 100% my story to tell, and I can only go by the hearsay that I was told. So I don't want to get in trouble with that. But, I think he had done some stuff in his past that kind of got to him as well. And it's just a combination of, losing the love of his life and dealing with the past pain and trauma. Yeah. That's why he just decided to end it.
So, and you decided to do some work on yourself. Did you do that with coaches or counselors, or just all on your own, or with the church?
Well, it's funny you said that, because I did a couple different things. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Theophostic Prayer Ministry.
Mm-mm.
With Ed Smith. So basically, and it's funny because since then, I've pretty much everybody that I've worked with in coaching pretty much does the same thing, only they call it something different.
Okay.
So basically what you do is you get into like a meditative state, and then you feel the feelings of, okay, so say you want to work on anger. So when was the first time you felt angry? Go back to that, and you go back to the very first time that you were angry, and usually it stems back from your childhood. Mm-hmm. And it takes you all the way back there, so you feel that moment and feel those emotions, and then you ask God what he says about that, and allow him to come in that to tell you the truth, and then you wrap that up. And now you're believing the truth instead of the lie, because it's all lie-based thinking that we're triggered with, usually.
Stories we tell ourselves, or how we interpret something as a child. And got it.
Yeah. So I did that for years, and I actually took a course on that, and I actually became a facilitator and can do that.
It's like reintegrating your child, reintegrating all of you back into your one heart, right?
Exactly.
Not being like splintered or all separated.
Exactly. So I did that for years, and then I've done some more work with, if anybody knows Jen Zahari, amazing woman. I highly recommend getting in touch with her. She does some energy work as well. So she puts what I said along with the energy work together. So it's kind of like you combined everything together. Absolutely amazing. So definitely recommend her. Definitely, if that's something else that you want. And then, just the tools that I've had over the years, by teaching myself, to go back to my triggers and re-identifying that, and, what's the lie in that? What does God want me to know about the truth? Or what is my intuition or gut telling me, about that moment? So I've learned, to take everything that I've done, and put that together. And then, of course, when my dad was diagnosed with cancer the first time, the Windsor Cancer Clinic here in Windsor, Ontario, they have social workers available for anybody that, wants, any member of the family that wants to take advantage of that. And I thought, okay, we've gone through heart attacks, we've gone through strokes, we've gone through kidney failures, we've gone through dialysis, and I never got help through any of that other than what I was doing myself. And I thought, I need to talk with somebody, because at that time I was planning a wedding, I was working full time, And then my hero and Rock just got diagnosed with cancer. So I had her for a while, and she gave me some extra tools to use as well. And sometimes just talking to somebody helps as well. And she was truly amazing, but then she got transferred to a different hospital, and I'm like, she goes, well, if you want, I can get you another social worker, but your dad's only in the program for another year, because at that time his lung cancer had been in remission. So I was just like, no, if I only got him for a little bit longer, forget it. I don't want to retrain another social worker. Like, I don't want to go through all that again. So,
well, how did your parents react to your book?
Wow.
Did you talk to them about it, or did you just say, here's my book, or like?
Well, I wrote the book, and then I said, by the way, I got a book coming out, and I gave them a copy as it came out. Hey, Russ.
Hi, Russ.
And so I thought everything was peachy keen and everything, and my mom goes,
wait, you gave him a copy. Had you told him at all anything that you were writing in it?
Okay, so my editor at the time said, I think you should ask your parents, if it's okay, because you can get sued. Even your parents can sue you.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I thought, okay. So I sat down and I explained to them. I didn't give them a copy of the book, but I told them what I was writing and how I was writing and what I was writing about, because I even tell in the book about my mom's double bypass that she went through, which was another traumatic experience. So my mom and dad I said, and I'm doing this to help other people. So both my parents were on board. And I think, yes, this book, was it written? I can't remember exactly if I talk about my dad's cancer, but anyways, it was more to do with my mom's stuff at the time. And they both said, well, if it's to help somebody else, then yes, go ahead. So I just found out as my dad was passing away that my mom was a little bit upset with me she only read up to a certain point, but she didn't read the rest.
Oh,
she didn't read the rest.
Oh, no.
I know. And then a family friend of mine says, your mom's really upset with you. And I'm like, what? And she goes, so she read the book. My friend read the book and then went back to my mom and says, your daughter loves you so much. I suggest you read the rest of the book, because the rest of the book really explains, like, you just read one line that ticked you off,
right,
but you didn't read the rest of it. So I'm pretty sure everything's good now.
Wow. So you said the book came out when?
It came out in January of this year. Yeah.
Your father just passed away. That's the whole, you wrote a book on trauma to kind of put all your trauma in the past.
I did. Yes. Well, it's funny. Okay. So backing up a little bit. So since June of this year, my life has been traumatic. Doesn't even seem the word for it. Like, I'm at the numb stage, to be quite honest. Even and so June, I'm also power of attorney for my grandmother. My grandmother had been battling dementia for 5 years.
Now that's your mom's mom, or?
That's my mom's mom.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad's parents have been gone for 19 and 17 years. So she's battling dementia, and the rest of the family doesn't think it's that bad, but she's living with my parents. So there was an incident that happened, and there's been 5 years of incidents that happened, but this was like, okay, we need to get grandma some extra help, because it's just not, it's not a great thing for my parents to have to go through this, especially since my dad's going through chemo treatments again, and like, he's not well. And at this point, if anybody has ever dealt with the dementia before, I'd rather deal with cancer than dementia, because at least with cancer, they know what they're doing. With dementia, they don't know what they're saying. They're in and out. My grandmother is a very loving grandmother, and I've seen some episodes that would freak you out. It's like they even get weird. It's like the evil switch has flipped, and it's like, this is not my grandmother. Now, in the moment, as you're hearing what's coming out of their mouth, you're like, holy shit, this isn't grandma, but it still hurts because of what's being said.
Yeah.
So in June, we put her in the hospital, got her assessed. And to make a long story short, on my birthday, my 41st birthday, I had to put my grandmother into a retirement home. Oh. She is not, and here in Canada, the requirement is 2 people have to take care of you in order to go into a long-term care home. So because she can take care of herself, it's just her mental capacity isn't there. We can only put her in a retirement home. But at least she's around people her age, and it gave my parents a little bit of a break as well. And so she's thriving in there, thank goodness. Awesome. But I mean, for a couple of weeks, it was like I was getting phone calls at work all the time. I was just like, I'm however.
You had sick dad and a grandmother.
Yeah. And then my mom, her angina and that acts up, and then she gets these dizzy spells, which we still don't know what that's from. No doctor can properly diagnose her other than that they think it's an onset of migraines. So she gets dizzy and she almost passes out. And this could happen at any time. Wow. So this is what, she's dealing with on top of my dad, on top of her mom. So
on top of the book you wrote about her.
Yeah, on top of the book I wrote. Yeah, right. So, well, because... Okay, so let's be straight. What she didn't like in the book was the fact that I talked about, it was a weight issue. Weight has been a generational thing in my family. My grandparents, her parents were completely overweight. My mom was overweight. I was overweight. So it's like a generational thing. And I had mentioned that and she didn't like that. So that's what she was upset about. Mm-hmm. So, but anyways, I think that's clear now. So then, so we got my grandmother into a home July, August. So my dad's, was re-diagnosed back in December with liver cancer this time instead of lung cancer. Well, then he's on chemo treatments. Well, we were thinking they were working. They were working at the beginning, but then they stopped working. So around that time, we were told, I went on vacation the last week of August, and I took him to, in part of my vacation, I had to take him to his, backing up the train a bit, I had to take him to his oncology appointment, and that's when we were told that they hadn't worked, the treatments hadn't worked, and that the only thing left that they could do for him would be immune therapy, 3 shots. You only have 3 things at this, and if it works, you have a year to 2. If not, you have 3 to 6 months. So we were told that August 21st. The last week of August, I went with him for his first treatment, and then I went on vacation, and he was failing even in that week, and I'm like, so in my spirit, I knew that we wouldn't have the year to 2. I figured we would have 6 months, but I knew actually from December 8th, when he was re-diagnosed, I knew in my spirit he wouldn't be around. So we come back from our vacation, and that Sunday I asked my husband, I said, can we please stop and see my parents? I want to see how he's doing. And I walked in the house and I saw my dad, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? This is not the dad I left. Wow. So in 4 days, he declined that badly. So to the point where we had my stepson, and I didn't know I didn't know my dad. My mom says, I didn't want to tell you because you were on vacation, and I hadn't taken a vacation since my honeymoon. So my mom's like, I didn't want to tell you to upset you. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I wish you would have, because I had to help my dad up out of the chair, and my stepson was there, and my husband took my stepson outside so I could get my dad back in bed, and I went back the next day. So 9 days after that, he passed away. September 14th, he passed away, and I was there every day. I went back to work the following after my vacation, and I said, listen, my dad's dying. I need to get out of here. I need to spend some time with them. And they were like, take what you need. They were supportive that way. And he ended up dying 9 days after that. So
I'm so sorry. I know that was.
it's hard, he's the only guy that would sit there and listen to me, and instead of saying, shh, listen to me, You usually tell your mom about all your problems. I told my dad all my problems. Like I'd be driving home from work. I'm like, you wouldn't believe this, Dad. And now I've got nobody. So I'm like talking to God about my problems.
So, well, you can still talk to your dad too.
Yeah. He tried to behead me. Like I got back to work. He passed away. I allowed myself the 3-day bereavement, and then I took an extra day. So I went back on the Monday, and I'm out walking on my lunch, because I always walk on my lunch. I do walking videos if anybody pays attention. And I had a duck, and I'm like, what the hell? It was a butterfly. And I ducked for a butterfly. And all I said was, Dad, is that you? Uh-huh. And I was talking to my girlfriend who is connected to spirits and things like that. And my dad just happened to be on the show with us that day that we were on her show. And she told me afterwards, and she goes, so I said, ask him if he was the butterfly. And he said, duh, what do you expect? I'm like, that's how my dad talks.
It's so cool. I mean, just because we can't see him, he's just not in his body anymore. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to imagine and 100% believe that, but I'm getting closer to really getting that. We're all energy.
And quite honestly, this is the first time that I've ever believed it. And I don't think if it was anybody else other than this one particular friend, I probably would have thought,
yeah,
I probably would have thought that it wasn't possible. But at this point, I wanted to believe.
Right.
I really wanted to believe. And so I do believe, but I also believe that it's somebody that you have to trust. I don't think you could. And it's funny because randomly the last 2 weeks I've had different psychics approach me on Facebook, just wanting to be my friend. And I'm like, I'm sorry. There's only one particular friend, she's not a psychic, but she's like you said, she's heavily tuned into energy.
Yes.
And I trust her. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that it's not a thing,
right?
But I don't know. I only trust certain people with my dad. See, that's the thing. I've always been like that.
Yeah. Yeah. How's your mom doing?
She's trying to put up a good front, but we're all sad. We all miss him. She goes, it's just hard. I miss him with every breath that I take. And they were together for 50 years, married for 47. Okay. It's the only man she's ever known since she was 15. So, it's hard. And then, we have a family member right now battling, a heart attack and waiting surgery, whom is very close to her. I don't want to put it out there because the family's not okay with talking about that. And so and it's somebody really close to her. So she's, still dealing with the trauma of my dad. And now she's dealing with the trauma of this family member. And I tried calling her on the way home, and because I always try and call. I text in the morning to make sure she's still there. And I text that night. I try and call at night so I can hear her voice to see how she really is. And she didn't answer. So I texted her and I'm like, are you okay? I'm like, because she knows if she doesn't answer the phone call and doesn't answer the text, I'm calling the neighbor to come over to see if she's okay.
How far do you live from her?
I live an hour away.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, but my brother lives 20 minutes from her.
Okay.
So if I had to, I'd just call my brother and say, hey.
So do you coach people?
I do.
You've got the Overcomer Academy, right?
Okay. So here's the thing. So the Academy is a dream right now. And this is so far-fetched and so far, but this is a God thing. Okay, so the Academy is so this is how I vision the Academy. and God gave me this picture. So I want to help all homelessness and eradicate homelessness everywhere in the world.
Oh yeah, we talked about this. Okay, when
Yeah.
you and I
So,
talked on the phone once. All right.
so what part? Okay, so I envision an empty school, and in the school, I want a classroom to help the homeless get back on their feet, whether that's give them a job or clothe them, feed them, whatever we need to do to get them what they need, right? And then in another classroom, I want to help women that have been in abusive relationships or men and help them get on track and get their shit right, and so that they don't settle for anything less than the best. Mm-hmm. And in another classroom, I want, even the basic teaching kids how to cook. Teenagers these days do not know how to cook, and it drives me crazy.
You just put it in the microwave.
I have a 19-year-old nephew that is supposed to be in university, and because of COVID, he's still at home with his dad. If not, he'd be living with me. Mm-hmm. But still, he has not a clue how to cook. So we need to teach men, women, and kids how to cook. You should be able to cook an egg, people. Like basic necessities of life. And then I want to teach in another classroom, perhaps maybe teaching people how to write a book, an entrepreneur course, coaching in some sort of, whatever coaching people need. And then, okay, so the newest thing, my girlfriend thinks I should be the laughter coach, the fun coach.
Oh yeah, that's right. You posted that. And I shared that I interviewed somebody on my podcast who's the laughter coach.
Yes. Yeah. She says, and because, okay, so I love helping people. Okay, this is the thing. So I try to help people. And then I had this one guy, like I was seriously listening to him, and he came up with every excuse in the book, and it drove me nuts. So I said to my girlfriend, I said, I don't know if I want to be a coach, only for the simple fact is people are so in their shit. They don't want to get out of their shit. And then I give them tips that I have used to get out of my shit, and they're telling me it won't work. Right. I said, that's the most frustrating thing in the world. So my friend says, well, okay, to be a good coach, you have to allow them to be in the shit, but then coach them out of it. I'm like, okay, so, but if I just teach people how to have fun and how to laugh, because seriously, folks, you've heard growing up, what my growing up was like. I felt like I was the adult, not the child, that I never had, I never had a lot of fun in my childhood. So when I hit 40, the new thing was fun. And since I've hit 40, I'm 45 now. And I know I don't look 45. You can all say that. That's perfectly fine. So in everything that I do, I try and find some kind of fun. Like even watching my dad die, I was cracking jokes. And at first my mom was like, what the hell did you just say? And I'm like, come on, Mom. Dad would be saying the exact same thing. And they're like, okay, yeah, you're right. Because I have the same personality as my dad. Dry Scottish humor. Mm-hmm. And, so I try and find fun and laughter and everything. And there's so many people, like with the pandemic and stuff like that, so many people have not had fun in ages, and it's time to get back to that. And some people have no idea how to do that. So I want to help draw that out of people, and so that they could have fun and enjoy life instead of it all being about work and no play.
Yeah, I love it. So they can create a life they love. That's part of creating a life you love is laughing and enjoying life every day, being in the moment. And we can get, I know I can, you can get so serious and stressed, and you just gotta laugh.
Well, and that's why I have neck issues, because for years I let things build up, and now I have a neck problem and it hurts, and I have to go get a massage every month.
You have to. Hi, Maria. Thanks for joining us. So you as we wrap this up, you talked about self-care, the importance of self-care. What is self-care to you? Getting massage.
Okay. Okay. So for me, it's massage. I will say that. Okay. And I've also learned that self-care is different for everybody, because some people like to go have a nice bath. Some people like to, that's not me. I can't sit still long enough to do that. I'm like, go, high energy. And that I've tried it. I have tried it several times. once in a while I don't mind it, but it's not my thing that I would be my go-to.
Right.
So for years, because I was uber attached to work, I was a workaholic. I'm a recovering workaholic now, and I did not believe that was okay. So when I talked about the social worker from the cancer clinic, she's the one that taught me that self-care was important. And the reason, stepping back into the first question you asked about that academy is eventually going to be a nonprofit. And there are parts that I do now, like I do help people, I do coach people, I'm getting into the fun aspect of it. But the whole homelessness and all that, I see it as I want one in every city around the world.
I love your vision. I love it's a big,
it's huge,
audacious goal, big dream.
So I need help.
You don't know how you're going to get there, but you're going to get there.
I have no idea how it's going to become reality. And that's why I say it on every show that I need your help. So if you want to be part of that, come see me, talk to me, DM me, whatever you need to do. Going back to the self-care. So yes, like I said, I didn't know what self-care was about. I, worked 60, 70 hours a week, came home, took care of my family, until I hit a wall one day and I completely burnt out. And then when my dad got cancer, it was like, okay, that's it. I'm done. And I make a point to make sure that I do something fun and for me each day. And normally, and I've set my day and my routine up that so I've had several different morning routines, and I don't know about you, I get bored very easily. Mm-hmm. So if I don't change it up, and I did the first routine for almost a year, and that was get up, do my gratitude, do my meditation, do my journaling. But then I found I was getting even like talking to God, it was like checking off a checklist. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, if I have to do self-care where I'm checking off a checklist, that's really not self-care. No. That's just another thing that I have to do.
Yeah.
So then, and I will admit, I had gotten away from talking to God when my dad got sick, because I was just like, why would you take the best thing that was one of the best things that was in my life, my rock, the guy that I could go to for everything. You just took that away from me, So not that I was angry at God, but him and I have had the conversation. We've worked it out. And, but I'm like, but now I'm getting back into it where I do 15 minutes of exercise, and then I meditate, where I get into that meditative state and I just listen to what he has to say, or my intuition listening to what I have to say. Like I'm trying to get it all into one, if that makes sense. Yeah. And then I do a little bit of work, and then, I get up, my husband ready, and we start our day. So to me, it's having that time to yourself in the morning that is really beneficial. I am 100% all about gratitude. And even in the shitty moments of my life, I've given gratitude in it because I know it's going to help somebody else out. And I believe that's why we're all here. Why we go through all this stuff is to help other people.
I completely agree. And I get it too about the self-care, in that, I have a hyperachiever saboteur that keeps telling me, achieve this and this and this, and then you'll be happy. Right. And so sometimes, very much less often now do I believe that, and I'm able to be more in flow and not a workaholic. But then sometimes it gets out of control, and this week it's kind of gotten out of control, and so I just catch it and get back into my morning routine, because when you start your day off like that, the whole day, at least for me, the whole day goes so much smoother. And I've blocked off my calendar for a lot of time in December and the beginning of January, like mid-December to mid-January. And, part of it is, can be a pleaser. So I'll say, yeah. And then my calendar's all full, and I need to say yes to me, not to everybody else. Right. So.
Oh, do I know that? Yes. Yeah. Considering I have some big, tenacious goals, and in order to do that while working a full-time job, you got to do it in nighttime hours. But yeah,
you also got to enjoy life too.
Exactly.
I mean, but when you're working on a big goal like that, it's not really work because it's something that you're really passionate about. So it
Right.
doesn't seem, like my coaching and stuff that I do, it doesn't seem like work because I'm passionate about it, but still it can get to feel like work if I don't have that time for me.
Yes.
I guess is what I'm saying.
Exactly. Like doing shows like this or even my own show, it's to me that's not work. Like this is like I could be dead dog tired. And then like tonight when I knew I was getting close to 7:30, I'm like, boom, I'm like wide awake. Or Mondays when I have my show, it's just like, boom, I'm awake. Let's go. Like it's on.
What time is your show?
7:00.
Mondays at 7 p.m.
Mondays at 7. Yeah.
On LinkedIn,
Facebook, and YouTube.
All right.
For right now.
If they follow you on LinkedIn, which
yes,
I didn't put your LinkedIn graphic up here, but they can just search your name, Dorothy. But it's Graham O'Dell.
It's Graham O'Dell.
Dorothy Ann.
Yes, on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, it's Dorothy Ann Graham O'Dell. Yes.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes or connect with me. And if you want to find Dorothy, then I'll help you connect with her. But yeah, and so what's the name of your show and what do you talk about?
It's The Unstoppable Overcomers. And to tell you the truth, I showcase people that have overcome odds to help other people. That has to be part of, being on the show. You have to help somebody else because I believe in giving back.
Yes.
But as of the 15th of November, the show will be changing a little bit. And we're going to be adding some fundamentals and adding fun to the show.
You might be laughing.
We'll be laughing. There is talk of a co-host and, extending the hour and just really still honoring people and still honoring the show, their story, but adding some fun to it. So I'm, having the best of both worlds because I definitely want to help other people and get other people heard. But in the same sense, well, we have fun on my show no matter what anyways, but we're having more fun. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the Onward podcast, Dorothy. Thank you. I was wondering if you have some last minute words of wisdom for the guests.
Yes.
For the listeners, sorry.
Definitely. Okay. So the things that come to mind is know your worth for sure. Don't settle for less than the best. Listen to your gut for sure. And basically, if you feel alone, reach out to somebody because I honestly, reach out to myself, reach out to Emily. We are all here for you. And, the more people that I meet on LinkedIn and on Facebook and things like that, there is just a lot of people who are in the same position. We've had had things happen to us in the past and things like that. So we know what it's like. And we just want you to know that you're not alone. So if you're in those heavy moments right now, reach out to somebody, reach out to me. We care and we want to be here for you. You don't have to go it alone.
I completely agree. I mean, so somebody might be thinking, well, yeah, but you don't know what I've done or what I'm experiencing. And maybe we don't know exactly, but we have probably felt, yeah, but you don't know what I'm experiencing. And the more you talk to people, especially me as a coach, I meet so many different people and understand and hear what they're going through.
Yep.
We're all going through it. Things like imposter syndrome or not feeling good enough or, whatever. You're not the only one. Guaranteed.
Exactly. Well, and the thing about us is because we network so much. And like you said, we coach other people and we're always helping other people. If we can't help you, we know of somebody who can.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's help out there.
So, there is. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm going to play my quick outro and then I'll see you in the green room.
Perfect. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. And for those of you who are listening later when I publish this as a regular podcast, I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate everybody who came here and made comments. I know that there's a lot of live shows on and it's hard to get to every single one. So even when someone just pops by and says hi, it feels awesome. So I appreciate you guys for watching. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, or here's my website, emilyharmon.com. I've got a coaching section there and then you can join the Onward Movement, which is a Facebook group that I have, which is all about embracing authenticity, releasing the fear of judgment so that you can create the life of your dreams with confidence. Thank you very much for watching. And let me just play my outro. I'll see you guys next week, next Wednesday. Let me say next Wednesday is going to be my roommate from the Naval Academy and we're going to be talking about how the Positive Intelligence Coaching Program, which is all about mental fitness, how 2 Naval Academy graduates have benefited from mental fitness and from strengthening our mental fitness. And because I think sometimes people might think mental, I'm not mental, I don't need any coaching in that. And we're going to talk about what it is. And you can ask us questions about what it was like to be the first few women at the Naval Academy. We were in the class of 85. We were in the 6th class of women to graduate. And Darlene has been one of my best friends since then. And I met her in 1981 and we're still really close. So I'm looking forward to being live with her next Wednesday night. The Onward podcast is sponsored by Emily Harmon Coaching and Consulting. Visit my website, emilyharmon.com, to learn more about my coaching programs and how you can work with me. Let's move onward together.